So the first of all, we've discovered, or you've discovered, I haven't discovered anything, an insulin dose reduction very quickly on small doses of roughly 25 to 30%. If you're on an AID system, that's generally going to manage it. Are you proactively relaxing carb ratios on initiation, and by how much, if so, on AID?
Yeah, so I do. So I think it depends on whether you are on multiple daily injections or an AID. If you are on a multiple daily injections, I'm going to cut back on both your long-acting insulin as well as your insulin to carb ratio.
By
Now, remember
30%
that,
each?
yes, roughly, right? Sometime
Yeah.
it depends on what is that basal bolus ratio look like. So if some people who would prefer to have a less bolus and more basal, and ratio is 60-40%, then I'm going to say I'm going to cut down more of a basal than actually bolus. But I think you got the point that ultimately you are trying to think about reducing between 20 to 30%.
Yeah.
Now, that is true more on people that I would say have an A1C, of 7.5 or below. But let's say, for example, I'm starting with someone on A1C of about 8.5 or 9%. I may not cut back that much of insulin because I want to have that individual get to the goal,
Yeah.
right? And cutting down that insulin too much would probably not going to be good to achieve that kind of a glycemic goal. And so I think in that case, yes, that person is going to get again a good response, but then I want to make sure that the insulin is adequate to match with the demands for a glycemic goal. I would cut back by only like about 5 to 10%, or sometimes not even that one with the small. And then I see how it happens in a week or two, and then I may try to change the dose. So what I do is that I think it's a highly individualization here. And so I talk to patients, explain everything. I give them all this different plan A, plan B, and plan C, because the way I think about it is that the people living with type 1 diabetes are the captain of their ship. I can kind of guide you externally, but you are navigating it 24/7. And so I just give that, okay, this is a plan A, this is plan B, and plan C. If this is not working, we're going to go for this part. And if you have a trouble, just send me a message through your EMR and those kind of a things. But it does require that kind of an individualized plan.
It sounds like we all need to get over to your clinic. That's the problem. There's not enough for you to go around. So I'm going to try and think about, for a person listening, or maybe a healthcare professional listening, how, if I've just listened to you, how I would be approaching it. Number one question is, what's the HbA1c and what's the time below range? If the HbA1c is high, time below range is low, we're maybe thinking very minimal reduction. So that's question number one. If your time below range is very high, obviously be thinking of 30% reduction. If you're more in target, HbA1c less than 7, 30% reduction. So that's your first decision. Then your second decision is look at the total insulin. You know how much you're taking off, and then look at where it's coming from, basal, bolus, and obviously the one that has the predominance, take more off that than the other one. And therefore you've got kind of like a 2x2 to give you a common sense. But what I really like to hear you say is you don't just give plan A, you give plan A, B, and C, which I think is really nice. And that's just prime for an Excel calculator, isn't it? You're just banging the numbers. This is what I'm reducing. Print off something that says, we're going to start here. If you go high, go to here. If you go low, go to here. I mean, that's just easily done with an Excel calculator. So, I just think those are so important nuggets for clinicians, for people with diabetes to think about. Good starting point, plan A, plan B, plan C, so you don't get into trouble. And also, it's great that people can message you via your EMR. That's not necessarily the case over here. You might be waiting till next year to see your doctor.